gonna be working on our continuous integration pipeline. The first step that we need to do is to create our Docker images. Once we have our images created, we need to create an Azure or Azure Container Registry when we're gonna be storing our Docker images of our applications, and we're gonna be configuring the Azure pipeline. So what is gonna happen when our application um, has new releases? It is gonna send or push the new code into Azure repos, and it is gonna trigger our Azure pipeline continuous integration, and it is gonna build our application into a Docker image, and it is gonna publish that new Docker image into our Azure Container Registry. That's what we're gonna be working on this part of the video. Next, we're gonna be working on our continuous pipeline, continuous delivery pipeline, which is gonna take this new container, and it is gonna publish this into our Azure Kubernetes, or probably another Azure application or Azure container application. So I think we need to talk about a little bit about what is continuous integration and continuous delivery. The continuous integration and continuous delivery are practices in software development that allows to deliver reliable code into production. So continuous integration, it starts with coding, building, and running testing in an automated form. Once it passes, it is gonna release the application, and then this is a step of continuous delivery where the application is gonna be deployed into our servers. And this is how continuous integration and continuous delivery works together to automate the process of delivering new features into production. So this is another image that is showing how it is going to work. So we have our code in our computer. We Dockerize the application. We send this to our Azure repos. Once the code is in Azure repos, it's gonna trigger some Azure pipelines that are gonna send the applications, the containerized application, into our Azure Container Registry, and then this is gonna be deploying into some service in Azure. In this case, in this example, they're using the Azure Web App for containers that runs the instances. This is good when we just want to deploy one instance and we don't need escalate the application. This is good for testing, to have testing environments where we don't need to worry about having to escalate our application. So let's start. So the first step, as I said, is we need to Dockerize our applications. So in order to do that, you need to have Docker installed, and let's start by going to our application, in this case the transaction application. To add a Docker image, just right click on the application if you're using Visual Studio, and you click here, add. Where is it? Okay. We need to add Docker support. It is not enabled for me because I already run that. So what it's gonna do is gonna create a Docker file. This Docker file, what it's gonna do is to expose. It is gonna use a ASP.NET Core 6 image. This image is gonna be used to build the application and run the application inside a Docker image, inside a container. We don't need this part. Let's save this. Make sure you have something like this. What this Docker image is doing is that it is going to use this image as a base, and the working directory is going to be underscore app. It is going to be exposing our application on port 80. Then we're going to use a smaller ASP.NET image, that is the SDK. The working directory is going to change to source. First, we're going to copy the CH project into this folder. This folder is the one that is going to be inside the source folder. Then we're going to restore our application to install all the necessary packages. We're going to copy everything that we have in this project into the source. We're going to create a new working directory inside source. We're going to run the build application with the command release, and it's going to be released on this folder, build. The next command is to publish our application. It is gonna be also in this folder. And finally, what we're gonna be is going into the publish application. We're gonna go to this app, and we're gonna run this command, which is gonna be ensure that the application runs using the command.net. And that's it. That's everything that we have to know about the Docker image. And you have to have this Docker image for each application. So let's save this. Let's run some commands in the terminal. So this is the transaction. So let's create a new one. 5 doing transactions. So one thing that we have to know is that we need to run these transactions on the root folder. So as you see, if we go inside the microservice transaction, we have here inside the Docker image, and if we run the commands inside here, it's not gonna work. You will need to have to do some changes into this file in order to work. So for that, we just go one folder behind, and we run all the commands from here. So let's start by running Docker images to see the images that we have. We don't have any. Just run Docker build to what it's gonna do. Docker build is gonna take our Docker file and it's gonna create an image. So we're gonna create a name for that. In this case, gonna be microservice transaction. I'm gonna just name it transaction. And we need to indicate where is our Docker image. So for that, we go to microservice transaction, Docker image file, and we're gonna create the image right here. So now we run Docker image and we should see our transaction image. Okay, that's fine. Let's do that with every one of our applications. So as you can see, security is already done. So let's start with account. This was transaction, account is missing. Let's check the Docker file. Docker file is fine. Let's stop it and let's run the application. Go to the terminal, account, Docker publish account, and the root of the file, Microservice account, Docker image. Do this. What I got there. I forgot plug. Right, no, plug. Docker publish. And history. This one looks good too. So let's go one further behind. Stop this one. Stop. This one is finished. And lastly, let's open a terminal. History. Okay. So let's run the same Docker build image. The name is history. You can also add here the name of your Docker registry. like my Docker registry slash the name, and also you can add a version, like version 1. If you don't add a version, it's gonna create always the latest. Is the latest, and the T and the name. The Docker image. We have an error here. It didn't find the. Let's just do something. Let's delete the file. Let's create a new Docker image. Support. And we had some issues with some names, but that's fine. We don't need to worry about this now. Let's run the same. Docker build, let's wait till finish. And that's it. One thing we need to do also is that we need to move some settings, like this one. So let's copy this line and add that into the app settings, because now everything is gonna be grabbing the information from here. Another way to do it is to add the environment variables, this one here in the Docker profile, and run everything under the Docker profile. But I'm just gonna add the settings into app settings JSON, and all the it doesn't matter if we run the application using this profile or this profile, it is gonna take the settings from this file. Now when the program runs, it is gonna take this endpoint, and this endpoint is pointing to app settings in Azure, and all other settings that are in our application in Azure, the app setting application, it is gonna be grabbing the variable from there. So let's save this. One thing that we need to do is to do everything with the same thing with all of them. This one already has it. Okay. This one also. Oh, look at it. Make sure it works. Next line. This one doesn't even have it. Okay, so to make sure it works, let's wanna run the Docker image inside our Docker let's just finish this. So I can't stop it, but I can show you what I did. So I just send this command that what it's doing is Docker. We're gonna run the application. In which port? The port that is gonna be exposed is the 9001. And as you remember, in our Docker file, we are exposing our application inside the Docker in the port 80. So what we're gonna do is redirecting or request from port 9001 to our internal Docker image port 80. And which is the application that we're gonna be running? Security. Let's go and test security in our port 9001. So let's go, we choose the environment that is Docker. Let's make sure that Docker has for security the port 9001. Okay, it is. So we send and we make sure it's working. It's working. So we finish Dockerizing our images. Next step, we're gonna continue creating our Azure Container Registry and then our Azure pipelines. So we are gonna be sending every change that we made here. When we send the changes or pushes or changes into our Azure repos, the Azure pipeline is gonna run the several steps, including testing, building the application, and building the Docker image, and sending that to the Azure Containers Registry. So let's go to Azure. Container Registry. We're gonna create a container registry. The source group. Microservice Azure. Okay. This is the name or the URL that is gonna be used to access our Azure Container Registry. We don't need to enable zones, and we're gonna use the standard. We don't need more. So let's create in the view, create a container registry. Finish. Let's go to the resource. One thing to do is we need to enable to access from outside, and for that we need to enable the admin user, and we're going to be using this user and password to access our application. Okay, we finished by creating our container registry. The next step is going to create the Azure pipelines. Encryption, repositories. Once we finish, we're gonna see here our repositories, but let's just be here. Let's go to Azure Microservices. The first thing that we need to do is to add the project settings to connect to our Azure registry. Project configuration. Now, where is it? Okay, let's go to the Azure pipelines, project settings, and settings.